Hello again, and welcome to the Casser Valley News live show. This is the audio only show that we do every Tuesday. The concept here is kind of like an old school radio show. Bob Weisman is here on time. Good evening, Bob. So the concept that we have here is an old school radio show, so we get to connect with each other, our neighbors, and talk about events and things that are happening in our town. My name is Robert. I am your host, and I have been your host for, sorry, I need to correct this, 56 episodes. Yes, 50. We've done this 56 times. Let's just jump right into the deep end of the roll call. Good evening to you again, Bob. Good evening, Elda. Wonderful evening to Dennis. I hope you're doing well. Bob, how are the A's doing? I have not been following, so I'm not kind of out of the loop with what's happening with the A's. I know last week they had a darn fine winning streak and they lost. So what we do, we usually open the show with the roll call. So if you're listening and you'd like a shout out, definitely post up a comment on the thread and we will definitely give you a shout out. We love to, good evening, Jan. We love to hear from the people who are listening and say hello. And sometimes it's cool. We have listeners from far-flung locales. I think we've had Texas and Ohio before. And Bob is saying the A's are ahead 3-2, bottom of the ninth versus Boston. I have a friend, Wendy, who's been a longtime friend of mine. She took her mom to the A's game on Mother's Day, and they had a blast. So I am looking forward to going to an A's game myself. But that's not the point here. Sorry. Yes, Jan is mentioning the A's are doing good, and it's great. I hear that. Todd Anglin, shout out to me. I want to give a shout out to Todd Anglin. And if you don't know who Todd is an awesome guy. I've known Todd quite some time now. Todd does a lot of stuff for our community behind the scenes. He hides the big S on his shirt for Superman. He's involved in the Rotary Club, the Chamber of Commerce, and Todd is awesome people. If you are looking for any type of insurance, Todd Anglin is a go-to guy. He has an office over on Redwood, but you can also find him online. Just look up Todd Anglin. Well, there you go. State Farm Insurance, Todd Anglin, excuse me. And good evening to Judy. Judy lived in Casser Valley for 30 years, now in Tracy, California. Good evening to you, Judy. I'm going to try and not prattle on for too long because at 7:15 we're going to have Roland Williams, who is the general manager for the Casser Valley Sanitary District, and he's going to give us some information, some insight, and some good historical information on the maintenance building that they have in the works at the corner of Center and Castro Valley Boulevard. So stick around for that conversation because I think there's going to be a lot of good information to hear from Mr. Williams on that. But we're still on the roll call. If anybody wants a shout out, definitely post it up there and we will say good evening to you. I wonder where Kim is tonight. Kim is usually the first person to say good evening. So Kim, if you're out there, good evening. Yes. So let me make sure I'm not missing anyone in the roll call. We got a light roll call tonight, but that's okay. Let me switch gears and say a special thanks to tonight's sponsor, That is forester.org. They are a local nonprofit with the mission to reforest urban communities, and they are Castor Valley folks. You can learn more about the things that they do on their website. That is forester.org, forestr.org. I think I say this. Good evening, William. I hope you're doing well this evening. When it comes to the folks with Forester, I say this every time we go through their advertisement on the show here. Forester, these folks are the guys and gals that you see at the side of the freeway, picking up trash, and I'm sure you don't need to be told that our freeway on and off ramps can be a cornucopia. I don't know if cornucopia is our $2 word for tonight. The freeway on and off ramps can just be full of litter, and these folks are the folks that you see out there picking up the trash at the side of the road. And when they first started advertising with us, I went out to see what they do the side of the freeway, and I spent, I think, maybe an hour and a half with them picking up trash, and I got that bug. It just felt good to go beautify an area of my town. So every morning I go out in my neighborhood where my office is. That's right by Three Cross Church. There's a long open there's a long bend there of just open space. I pick up trash there just about every morning, and I find it satisfying. I'm not saying that it would be satisfying for you. I didn't expect it to be as satisfying as it is for me, so that's what I do, and hopefully maybe you guys will be inspired to do a little bit of garbage pickup in your neck of the woods, wherever you are. Even if it's 3, 4, 5 things, whatever, it adds up. And there's something that I like to mention a lot, and I first heard this from Stanley Roberts, who did People Behaving Badly here in the Bay Area. There's a broken window theory, and if people see a broken window or any type of blight at any level, it tends to kind of attract more blight. So if you see an area that has trash, it seems that people are more inclined to add to that trash. But if people see that it's not trashy, hopefully maybe, I don't think there's scientific evidence that leads to this, but hopefully maybe people would be less inclined to dump trash if they see areas that are not blighted with garbage. So I'm going to step off my soapbox. I'm going to thank the people at Forester for sponsoring the show, and for also all of the wonderful things that they do in the community to beautify our community. And Judy is thanking me for the beautiful gift in serving the community every morning. Thank you so much. The thanks is the satisfaction of keeping things clean and picking up some items and Dana is mentioning cornucopia is a perfect word for the trash that we see. Thank you, Forester, for keeping our roads cleaner. Yes, thank you, Forester. They're also doing a lot of projects behind the scenes to plant more trees here in town, near some of the off and on ramps near the freeway. But as you can imagine, for any nonprofit, it's an interesting situation to work with the state agency, which is Caltrans. But from what I understand, they've been rather cooperative thus far, which is refreshing and awesome. So with that said, we're at 7:10. Is there anybody up? Good evening, Dana. I didn't say good evening to you. Is there anybody else who wants a shout out for the roll call? We can go back to the roll call. I'm wondering where Kim is. I hope Kim's doing all right. Maybe she's bowling tonight. I hope she's doing well. I did want to give like a really fast PSA to people driving on the boulevard, and it seems like good evening, Catherine. I hope you're doing well. And Catherine and Dana are top fans. Their comments have the diamond with the top fan indication. And Catherine, no worries that you're late. We're glad that you joined us. Oh, I wanted to mention people driving on the boulevard. It seems like traffic on the boulevard is really back to normal, and there's a lot of cars, and there's quite a few people who are speeding and driving like they're on the freeway. Um, I was on my bicycle. Never mind. Oh, good evening, Laura. Thank you for saving me from that story because I didn't want to recall that story. But good evening to you, Laura. Laura is one of the wonderful folks that listens to the show probably every week, and we definitely appreciate you returning and listening. And let me swing back to Todd. Todd has supported Casser Valley News in many ways, be it word of mouth. Also, Todd has also supported us by running advertisements with us. Greatly appreciate that. And I also wanted to give an additional shout out to Dennis. Dennis has consistently stepped up when we have mentioned our pledge page. And I want to give another shout out to Dennis and also mention, if you're interested, if you like community news, if you like what we do, we love what we do. We love our community. If you would like to pledge to help us continue doing what we're doing, it would be greatly appreciated. You would be paying us the most appreciated of compliments. You can donate $1, you can donate 50 cents, whatever. I mean, Castle Valley News is a business, so we're, as you can probably imagine, we're trying to put food on our table and pay the bills, and we really want to make the news coming from social media a viable business model so that other journalists and other news outlets can maybe follow suit, because it seems like what we do is fairly successful and pretty popular. Here's our caller. Hang on. Good evening, Roland.
Hey, Robert, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well.
So let's get into the topic that I really wanted you to be on the show to discuss. Let's talk about the new building that's proposed on Center and Castro Valley Boulevard.
Yeah, we're really excited about this project, and we hope to, finally get this project off the ground at some point here in the near future. I know, Robert, you've been following our project for quite a while.
Yes, sir.
And as you know, we started this process back in about 2013 to purchase the property with the anticipation of going and building a site over there. And so I don't know where you want me to start. I'm happy to start wherever you want me to.
Yeah, let's just start. What is the impetus? What is the need for the building?
Sure. Well, firstly, I wanted to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to come on tonight. As you know, CVSan has grown in its needs for the community in terms of providing solid waste and wastewater services to the community. A lot of that's driven by regulation, but since we've moved into the site here on Marshall Street, we've grown in terms of staff from about 8 to 10 people when we first moved in here to about 23. Currently, we are maxed out here at Marshall Street, so much so that we also rent space at the village in the patio drive. Basically, our engineering services are over there. We also have had to acquire equipment in order to do our work. And right now, we've got about $1 million worth of equipment that basically sits outside every day. And so our vision for the community was to build the site there at the corner of Marshall and Center Street to bring all of our operations back together. So it basically becomes one-stop shopping for all the services that we provide, both for wastewater and solid waste, also for getting permits for doing the project that you need to do for your sewer lines, those kinds of things. And then also to house all of our equipment and materials at that site. And we believe that that provides an efficiency that allows us to be more responsive to the community, both on a day-to-day basis as well as when we have emergency call-outs for, in the rare event, that we might have a sewer overflow or a sewer blockage.
How will CVSan pay for the building?
Great question, Robert. The way we are paying for this building is out of reserves. We have been saving money for this project now for the better part of 10, 12 years. And so we have amassed the money that we would need to pay for this project with cash, basically.
And will this building in some way help the local economy, or what will the impact be?
Well, the simple answer to that question is, of course, whenever there's any increased activity from a construction standpoint, there is a benefit to the community economically in terms of with the construction activity, with the workers. There's a new injection of workers into the site. But that only lasts about a year. And then obviously those people go away. But during that time, yes, there is an economic benefit to the community in that thinking. But I think what's more important, I think, for the project is that there's an economic benefit to the community from the perspective of this project over time, through efficiencies and also through operational benefits will help keep costs for the community to provide our services as reasonable as they can be.
And that leads to the next question: is will any of this impact the ratepayers in Casser Valley?
So that's another great question that I get asked a lot. So one of the things that CVSan does is we do a lot of long-term financial planning. And so currently, right now, we look out at least 10 years on all of our capital improvement projects and make decisions about how do we want to have the funding in order to do that. One of the things that we do in our budgets, which is somewhat unique to public agencies, is we consider what is the replacement cost of the items that we have, and we basically collect that money as we go along. So in effect, it's already built into the rates, if you will, the cost of our capital improvement projects. And so what that means is paying for something from cash as opposed to when you need it, you go out and borrow it, means that we don't pay that finance cost, which a lot of times can add at least 50% to the cost of the project over time. So think about if you have a mortgage and you had a 20 or 30-year mortgage, most of us know that during that time you literally pay for your house twice a lot of times in the mortgage, whereas if you had the money, you would just pay the asking price. And that is the method that we have chosen to use for the most part. Not that we haven't had debt that we've had to acquire from time to time, but we always look firstly to see how we can afford things by proper planning and then setting aside funds.
Not to get into the arena of bashing the MAC, but this project went before the MAC 5 times, and bring us up to speed with what the situation and what happened at the last meeting with the MAC.
Sure. I think, as you know, I did send a letter. You had asked for my kind of initial feedback. And, I will admit that we were disappointed that the MAC did not recommend our project for approval. But, as I stated to the MAC on more than one occasion, we both are providing a service to the community. We just are providing different services. And they were looking at the project from the perspective of how they thought it fit into the local area. We were looking at that as well as looking at the services we provide to the community. There were a lot of comments about they really liked the way the building looked, the front part of the building, how it looked from the roadway, and as you know, we're going to have a demonstration garden, and they really acknowledged that this project is going to beautify the front corner of that intersection, where they thought that the project might have been amiss from their perspective was in the rear, where we had the the portion where we were going to store our equipment, and so what that really came down to was a difference of opinion there. We did take a lot of their what we thought were good comments. They wanted us to, make sure we have we talked to the residents, which we did. We had a resident meeting. We talked to them, and one of the things that came out of that was we were going to have a neighborhood committee where they would be able to interact with us on noise or other issues that come up, because we definitely want to be good neighbors. We've been good neighbors here on Marshall Street, and we want to continue to be good neighbors on Center Street. And but in the end, they just felt for whatever reason that was not the right project for there. And so now we are going to be taking the project to the Board of Zoning Adjustment, which most people call the BZA, to discuss our project with them.
And what's the date of that meeting?
That meeting is going to be on May 26th.
Okay. And I'm assuming folks can look online and join the Zoom meeting that way if they want to comment or get the full gist through the presentation.
Absolutely, yes. And we would welcome people to join in. This has all been done in a very public and transparent process, and we will continue to do so. And so we just welcome the public to participate in this process, because I think it's important to have that public feedback, and it certainly has shaped the project so far. And as we hope to bring the project home, we continue to have the public be involved to help shape the project.
And share with myself and some of the listeners, what was the use of that property prior to your purchasing it? The CVSan purchasing it, excuse me.
Yeah, that's a great question. We looked at properties. We started looking at properties around 2010 because we knew we were outgrowing this site, and we had looked at a lot of different options, and so then when we came back and looked at that property, it wasn't actually up for sale, if you will, but we did contact the state because the property was owned by Caltrans. Caltrans was using it in a multitude of ways. They use it as basically a service yard. They stored a lot of heavy equipment going back to the 80s. They also used it for some CHP training with their motorcycles. When we got on the site, we found quite a bit of material stored in some of the large buildings there. So it was a combination of like a storage yard, a service yard, and a motorcycle training yard when we first purchased it.
So a service yard would be very similar to what you guys are proposing, correct?
Yeah, we purchased a property that we thought, and we still do believe that, what we're doing is very similar to what was done there in the past, but we think we're going to do it better. again, like I said, by us having a enclosed building, we believe that that's going to mitigate noise or nuisance to our neighbors. Like I said, we are investing in a sound wall that we're going to build around the building, around the site, to mitigate noise that will emit from our building. There was a question about our chemical storage, because we store, a lot of the vehicle fluid type chemicals, and it was at the property line. And through our conversations with the CVMAC, and also through conversations we've had with the neighbors, we are now looking to move that more towards the building, and that's going to really help, continue to provide a better service than even there was in the past when Caltrans owned the site.
What has been the reaction from the community when you've done your outreach and during the MAC meetings?
The reaction from the community has been generally positive. We believe that we have received generally positive comments on the project. I think most people understand that we're doing this to be able to provide better service to the community. We are also, by the way, going to be having another meeting where you can engage with myself and the engineers that are working on the project on May 20th, and that's another opportunity for the community to have conversations with us about the project, to understand it better. Because again, we want to make sure everyone understands this project. That doesn't mean everyone's liked the project. And we have had some people who have expressed, concerns or dislike for the project, quite frankly. But I will say that I believe that looking at the results from all the outreach, the overwhelming response has been favorable towards our project.
Do you know if there will be any impact on local traffic in that intersection?
Well, as you know, a project like this requires that we do an environmental impact, and one of those elements is traffic control. Our site is going to have about 70 parking spaces on site, so that is going to be able to accommodate all of our vehicles, all of our employees' vehicles, and our boardroom, which holds 50 people, anyone who comes to a board meeting. So we won't impact the surrounding community in terms of from a parking standpoint. We will have, about 23 people working at the site. So you will have about 20 cars coming in the morning and 20 cars going out, plus our vehicles. But bear in mind that Castro Valley Boulevard is a main thoroughfare, which sees thousands of cars a day. Mm-hmm. So our impact is going to be minimal from a traffic perspective to that corner.
Is there any idea or thought as to what may happen to the building on Marshall?
Yeah, that's a great question, Robert. And we have had conversations with Hayward Area Recreation District, and the Park District is very interested in our site, and they would like to purchase our site if our site becomes available. Now, that has to go through a process. All government agencies have to go through a surplus process. HARD has already stated that and have submitted to us in writing a letter of intent to pursue that process. So that there is a process we have to go through. But we do think that is a great secondary outcome for the community of Castro Valley from the perspective of HARD having a presence in Castro Valley to provide the recreation services that I think so many of us have come to enjoy from HARD.
Now, are they thinking of having that be kind of a satellite office for administration purposes?
So that's a great question, and I certainly don't want to speak for
Correct.
them specifically, but it's my understanding that they will use some of the the interior office space for perhaps some sort of classrooms or community rooms, and they may use the back portion for some sort of a satellite office. So there'll be a combination of, having, some maintenance staff nearby, but also being able to use the site to provide some of the recreation services to the community.
And I know we kind of put the cart before the horse here, but what does CVSan do for folks who are not familiar with the services that you provide in the community?
Sure. So CVSan's mission really is to provide wastewater and solid waste services to the community of Castro Valley. What that means is that we have our own crews. We go out and take care of all the public mains within the basically within the roadways or easements. There's about 160 miles of pipe in Castro Valley that we are responsible to manage, to upgrade when necessary, and to go out when there is an emergency. On the solid waste side, we firstly have contracted with a service provider in ACI to provide the recycling, green waste, and garbage service to the residents and the commercial establishments in Castro Valley, and then also to do education and outreach to really push the needle towards zero waste, meaning we are trying to remove as much as we can from our landfills as we move forward in time, and that's something that we put a lot of effort into.
When it comes to, and also, I'm sorry, explain how CVSan came about, and just touch on your board of directors and the role that they play.
You want to go way back, huh?
Well, not that far back. I know you guys go way back, but
yeah. So CVSan has been around since 1939.
Yeah.
So we're going on 82 years. And so your question was how we came about.
Yes.
And it was actually, a lot of business owners and things were looking to provide the wastewater services to the community because Castro Valley was growing, and they could not sustain the growth with just having septic tanks that were being served by all the chicken ranches, because they were starting to have planned developments, subdivisions, and those kinds of things. I did want to acknowledge that so basically we are a special district, meaning that we provide a specific service to the community, which I had mentioned earlier, mm-hmm. and that's the sole purpose of our charter. So that's what it means to be a special district, is we provide a special service to the community. And you asked about our board.
Yes.
So we are governed by 5 board members here that are elected, and so we have 2 that are elected. They're all 4-year cycles, but they're 2 years staggered. So there's 2 that are elected in a certain year, and then 3 that are elected in the subsequent 2 years. We recently have appointed a board member, and her name is Christy Duman-Wirtz, and she was appointed to the board last month. And so we do have a new board member, and we're excited about having a new board member. She's replacing Melody Appleton, who resigned at the end of March.
And your board members are elected through Alameda County office, the registrar of voters, correct? It's an election that comes up to the public.
Yeah. So we are part of the general election. So that means that our elections come up in November, along with the regular general elections that take place during that time. And so the next election will take place November of 2022. And so, anyone is able to run for the board at that time.
I am curious if we can kind of backtrack to the MAC meetings again. What were some of the specific suggestions that the council had, and what were the changes that the district made in accordance to those suggestions?
Sure, great question. So, firstly, like I said earlier, they were interested in us going back to some of the earlier meetings. We had basically presented a very simple building, very kind of almost utilitarian in look, and so one of the first things they said, well, we really need a building that we can be proud of here in Castro Valley. And so that was like the very first piece of advice that we took from the MAC. And so the building that you may have seen if you go to our website or see any of our social media posts or anything that we've put out is really honestly a testament to the CV MAC, because they really pressed us to say, hey, we understand that you provide a specific service, but we still want your building to be something that we can be proud of in Castro Valley. We took that, acknowledged that, built that into the building, and we think what is being presented from the front facade is a much better product. The other thing they had asked for, obviously, was that we seriously consider sound. And because of that, we took sound readings. We already had some from the environmental work, but we took sound readings of all our devices. We understand exactly what the sound emission is going to be, and that we are going to be firstly within the Alameda County noise guidelines, but we've also made certain considerations to make sure that we're trying to be as friendly to our neighbors as we possibly can be. There was a concern about a wash rack and that it might make some excessive noise when it's in use. We've basically removed the wash rack. We just are just going to have a wash off area. Again, that's going to reduce noise. Like I said earlier, we're looking to move the chem storage away from the perimeter of the building so that will make it not against the fence, and some people were concerned about that. And so, but where things, we kind of went in a different direction was, the MAC was basically requesting that we remove the roll-up doors from the rear part of the building where we were going to store our large vehicles. And there was a suggestion that we have basically a large carport, if you will, that would be open. And so we'd have some protection overhead, but we wouldn't have any, ability to kind of seal off the vehicles. We thought that was an important element to us from a couple of different standpoints. As I mentioned earlier, our four largest vehicles combined cost more than $1 million.
Wow.
Basically, our largest piece of a vehicle, our largest vehicle, is probably on the same order as a fire truck in terms of size and cost, quite frankly. Fire stations put their vehicles inside for a reason, for two reasons. One is because they want to make sure that those vehicles are ready to go when they need to be ready to go. And we do get called out for emergency calls if there's a sewer overflow. And that truck needs to be ready to go. And so having it housed inside is going to extend the life of that vehicle and to have it be ready when we need it. The second thing is we have carports here at Marshall Street. And we have had several break-ins. And we also had a break-in on Center Street where someone stole the catalytic converter out of one of our vehicles. That vehicle was obviously not parked inside a building. It was accessible. We work from 7 to 4 mainly. After 4, there's no one here. And so having those vehicles warehoused in a secure building, as we're desiring at Center Street, will keep those pieces of equipment secured. And not only that, but each one of those vehicles has about $20,000 to $30,000 worth of nozzles and hoses and tools that are around the vehicle. All those things can just walk away when they're not secured.
Right. Yeah. So it's a security issue.
Yeah.
Can we backtrack and can we give folks an idea of what the property cost and what is the overall budget ballpark for the new building?
Sure. So we purchased the project for about $1.5 million from Caltrans, and the project we're contemplating is a little bit shy of $12 million. And of course, these are estimates. There have been estimates that are a little bit higher than that, and there's quite honestly been estimates that are a little lower. We won't know exactly what it's going to cost, obviously, until we put it out to bid. And then also, we are still making some, fine-tuning decisions in terms of what will or will not be on the project site. But, by and large, we're thinking the project is going to be about $12 million. And that would be less what we would also sell this property for, which would go against that capital expenditure. And as I said earlier, I think you had asked the question, how long has CVSan been around? And we've been around about 82 years. And again, we are long-term planners. This project that we're building, we anticipate that this project is going to last. The service life of this building is we're looking for a 70-year building. So it's a long-term building that will benefit the community of Castro Valley for decades to come.
Is the plan for it to be on solar? Will it be LEED silver? How will that happen?
Well, it definitely will be a LEED silver building.
Okay. And explain to folks what that means. So that.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can you explain what that will mean to folks so that they'll have a better grasp of the...
Sure. So primarily what that means is that, so for instance, we talked about the garden out front. Mm-hmm. So the garden will be a drought tolerant, all native plants, what is considered to be a bay-friendly garden. So, firstly, what that means is that not only exterior but also interior, everything we do is used to use the least amount of water as possible. Usually, a lot of the fixtures are all low flow. A lot of the fixtures in the restroom, some of them don't use any water at all. We're going to use a lot of natural light to create light in the building so that we don't have to have lights on as much as you would if you're in a building that hasn't considered just the way the building is actually even being oriented on the site will allow the maximum opportunity for light to come through the building naturally. Same thing with HVAC, airflow. That the building can be heated and cooled more efficiently, and therefore using less energy. And then you had mentioned solar. We are looking to have solar on the building, and we will maximize that solar array on the building. In fact, if you've seen renderings, the building is sloped on the south side of the building to be able to maximize solar panels on the building. And lastly, we are planning on having electric vehicle stations so that both for the public and for our own fleet. And we are also looking in the future for acquiring electric vehicles or other vehicles that are going to be able to reduce carbon emissions, and that's something that has been a hallmark. Even this building that we are in right now was built to a lot of green building standards before they were even required.
How will the new building help our community?
So we see this building helping the community not only from the perspective of 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 it being, something that's going to be able to provide for better service in terms of to the community, but also by consolidating our operations. Like I had mentioned before, we have some staff at Patio Drive. We have some staff here. We have some equipment here. We have some equipment that's at Center Street. And we also have some equipment that we store at certain pump stations where we have places to put those things. So having that kind of disparate operation just creates an inefficiency. Mm-hmm. And so we believe by bringing all those services together, we believe that this is going to really increase our efficiency and effectiveness to the community to provide those core services. One of the things that we had talked about in terms of the demonstration garden out front is, as you know, we do 4 R's educational classes with every 3rd grader in Castro Valley. We will have a more, basically a better place for that to happen. Right now, we kind of do it in our boardroom. We don't have really a garden or any sort of outside area in which the kids have an opportunity to kind of, see, what a drought-tolerant plant looks like and a drought-tolerant landscaping looks like, along with having a dedicated, basically, classroom to be able to have that training. And we think that's really important.
What is the website if people want to check out more information and see renderings and read some of the project description?
I know that it's on the CVSan website. We can get you the exact page. I can get you the exact page.
It's probably a link just on the website, correct?
Yeah, if you go to our website, it's pretty easy to navigate to it. But we have that page, and so it is cvsan.org/projects. And then it is the first project that you'll see there is the Center Street project.
Great. I don't have any other questions, and we actually didn't get any questions from the community. So, I mean, if we want to round it out, or if there was anything else that you wanted to mention, feel free.
No, I just appreciate, again, Robert, I really appreciate, having the opportunity to share with the public. There seems to be a lot of things floating out there about our project. Mm-hmm. This is the reason why we do have the website. It's also the reason why we are having the meeting on 5/20, is that we want to really make sure people understand the project and the value of the project and how we believe this project is really important to the community at Castro Valley. And like I said, this is a long-term project. It's a 70-year horizon on this project. We think that this is going to benefit the community in terms of how we deliver service to the community. Also, how this we believe this building will be one of the buildings in Casser Valley that we can all be proud of. There's the hospital, there's the library, there's the marketplace, and I would hope that CVSan's headquarters would be counted in those major projects that define Castro Valley.
One last thing that just kind of came to mind: if this project does not come to fruition, what would happen to the property? Would it be sold again?
Certainly that's a bridge we'd have to cross when we get there. It would be unfortunate, again, if we weren't able to develop the property. And if for some reason we weren't able to develop it as we believe we're pursuing, we'd have to evaluate that. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we could do is to continue to operate as we are. Again, the problem with that is, in our estimation, is that it's woefully inefficient.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've kind of analyzed that and have found out that it is inefficient, you really want to fix it, and so we'd have to really think about how else would we fix it if this wasn't the fix. But we really do believe this is, believe me, Robert, we looked at a lot of options. One was to do we want to keep Marshall and build something different at Center Street?
Mm-hmm.
That means that we've got to manage two properties.
Right.
And just right off the bat, without even doing a deep dive, most of us would realize that if you had to manage one property or two properties, which one do you think is going to be more efficient? Probably managing one property.
Right.
And so we certainly want to get out of the business of paying rent.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think that is good for the community to just keep paying rent when we would have the ability to bring that in-house and not be paying rent. And so, I think those are some things we have to think about if that was an outcome.
Are there theoretically any other locations that may work if this location does not come again to fruition? And I'm assuming you've probably looked up and down the boulevard a couple times.
So, as you know, the county and along with CVMac has created basically a general plan, a Castro Valley general plan.
Mm-hmm.
And within that general plan, there are certain locations that are designated for public facilities.
Okay.
And so when you kind of look at that map, there's not a lot of places where we'd be able to, we can't just kind of move wherever.
Right.
We would need to be in a spot that is designated as a public facility. Just to remind you, we've been working on this particular site for about 12 years and trying to get this project built.
Mm-hmm. And
so we do, not that means that we can't do something else, but we have invested a lot of time and energy into making that happen. In the early stages, we had even talked to Rite Aid about buying or acquiring some of the property just across the street from us. And, we had some conversations with them. They honestly were not interested.
Mm-hmm.
They just weren't interested in selling. They weren't interested in doing anything with their property.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I've got nothing else at this point, and there's no questions from the community. I wanted to thank you definitely for your time, and best of luck at the BZA coming up.
Well, thank you, Robert. It's been a pleasure. If anyone in the community has any more questions, they can reach out to either myself or they can email Mike Nelson, who does a lot of our outreach,
mm-hmm.
and he's at michael@CVSan.org to follow up with any questions or anything that you might have. Again, I want to thank you, Robert. I know you're the voice of Casser Valley, so I think it was really an honor to be here tonight.
It was an honor to have you on here. Thank you so much, Roland. I'll see you around sometime soon.
All righty. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Take care now.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Well, hey, guys, thank you for tuning in, and thank you so much to Mr. Roland Williams from Castro Valley Sanitary District to give us some insight and information on the new building that is being proposed for the corner of Castro Valley Boulevard and Center, which is the former Caltrans property. I think we've kind of rounded out the edges of the hour here. I want to thank everyone who tuned in. Thank you to Mr. Williams again for joining us and giving us so much information on that project. Guys, we do this every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. I know I'm kind of cheating you guys out of 5 minutes, but I don't have anything else on the list here. So guys, thank you for being awesome. Shop local. Please support our neighbors, our local businesses. Be good to yourselves, be good to your neighbors, be good to every senior citizen that you know. Let them know that they are cared for. Hey guys, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. Thank you. We'll see you next Tuesday, 7 p.m.